as a founder, how to decide what to stop doing in a business. Now, it's really important to figure out as a CEO or a founder of a small business that's growing on how to actually evaluate what sort of activities make sense, what you can actually stop doing, and what you can outsource or hire people for. And I had this conversation with different friends of mine who have started a business recently. Over the past years, the business grew to a certain point and now they're not really sure what exactly to do. Now, the first point, first and foremost, when you start a business, you really need to be frugal. It's an expensive endeavor and takes time. The vast majority of the people are not profitable over the first, say, year or year and a half or whatever it is. Sure, they may earn some profit, but while growing the business, it's usually running in the red or it's pretty much break even, and it isn't something super exciting if you actually try to grow it. Of course, there are certain exceptions like lifestyle businesses and part-time jobs or some stuff like drop shipping or something else that you do on the side, but it's not really something that you can do in a very efficient manner, especially if you want to scale it to an actually legitimate company with employees and an office and some other stuff. So being frugal at first is very important because it's the most kind of crucial part to save as much money as possible and extend the lifeline of your business. So again, this one matters a lot. But once you have that sorted, you start thinking of, okay, I have 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and there are certain activities that I'd really like to get rid of. Now, you need to classify those into certain areas. Do you really suck at those activities? If you find someone for them, are you going to generate a decent return on investment for them? Or are there other ways to actually make it work? Now, what do I mean here? Let's say that you have, I don't know, an SEO company and you're the marketing director simply because you founded the company, but you're great at, SEO, but you have, say, designers, and you're really a non-creative person and you can't manage your creative team. And you say, okay, I need a creative director so that my designers create pretty infographics that are very heavily content driven, and this is going to generate lots of links for my business. So this, technically it's a decent decision. Now, this is just one strategy, of course, that you can apply, but you get the point. So if you have that sort of a business case at work, you may say, I don't get design, I don't know if it's beautiful or not, so let's hire someone who's the design director. But at the same time, you're a team of 5, 6 people, and hiring this design director only to manage a couple of people at work who are dealing with design, it's probably not going to yield a decent return on investment, unless you can afford to pay the creative director and the 2 designers for all their work and generate the amount of revenue that covers their salaries and then some. So that, of course, makes a business decision. Otherwise, again, if you do some form of an okay job, you use different people's opinions on design or you use some templates, it's not going to be perfect first, but it's going to be something that runs smoothly more or less, unless you really suck and just employ a couple of people who do nothing and really waste your company's budget. So you get the point here. When you're on a budget, you really need to figure out whether outsourcing or hiring is something that makes sense from a business standpoint. Otherwise, you simply have to be frugal and have to do stuff that you don't really like. For example, I really hate dealing with accounting and legal. It's just bothersome for me. It requires a lot of attention and a lot of focus in a condensed period of time, not to really mess up with anything. It's really tricky. There are lots of different tax regulations and whatnot. So it's just a bothersome task for me that I'm trying to offload. And I had to do generating invoices and preparing all that paperwork for years. Even though we have accounting, they're just doing some part of the job, mainly for the government and whatnot. And being able to outsource those was only possible whenever there was enough ongoing work and I was able to do stuff that actually generates a lot more money and makes sense to outsource those in exchange of doing something that's more profitable for the company or makes more sense. So some of the questions that I get are actually falling in the same area, or what I'm actually talking about is founders or CEOs or someone else who says, okay, we are successful, we're doing a bunch of stuff, we work on different projects, and now I am in charge of a lot of things, so what should I give up? Like, what are the kind of tasks that I really have to get rid of in order to be successful? Now, for that specific question, I use several different strategies. Like, my main point of kind of the starting point for almost everything that I do is everything is connected to return on investment. Everyone working in the company, every client we work with, every investment we make, pretty much everything has to have a return on investment. And that means that if we do something, it has to pay for itself, and then it should kind of bring a bit on top of that. So as a result, what I'm thinking of for the type of work or the types of tasks I do, I'm trying to look for those that can bring the best return on investment. Now there's a second type of the story. It's kind of breaking down the tasks into some form of price brackets. And I think I heard that from Eric Siu on the Marketing School podcast with Neil Patel. I think he mentioned breaking down tasks into those are $10 an hour tasks, $30 an hour, $100 an hour, and so on. So doing this type of a breakdown, it really helps you say, okay, I'm spending 5 hours a week on, I don't know, preparing, cleaning my desk and setting up coffee and doing this and doing that. And then you say, okay, so I do this 10 hours, $10 an hour task for 5 hours a week, which is 20 hours a month. And basically, for those 20 hours a month, I can spend 10 hours for doing consulting for $200 an hour, which is 20 times more expensive. So there's literally zero reason not to hire someone, even full-time, who's pretty much setting up coffee, cleaning up desks, or something else at the office that can make you way more productive. Again, but it only makes sense if you have the business opportunity to do consulting, speak with clients, do sales, something else that actually brings the ROI. Otherwise, if you have fixed income, then it doesn't make sense to actually expand on your expenses, right? So again, it should be ROI driven. And the last thing that I'm trying to tackle is there are specific activities that you can outsource and would be best to outsource, and those that you can't outsource. Now, I gave the example with the marketing creative director a bit earlier. Now, if you really suck at this type of job and hiring a creative director is going to increase morale and do this and do that, then it's great. But there are certain things that a CEO has to do, like PR, partnerships, sales, networking, negotiations, whatnot. And those are things that, of course, you can outsource. You can hire a PR company, you can basically build a sales department, you can do this, you can do that, but you can't really abstain of all that job because you are going to lose touch with your prospects, with your partners, with your peers, with your prospective employees. And this is really going to crush the company culture, and it's going to make it even so much harder for you to retain that same company and to keep growing it, or at least retain kind of the happiness and the culture fit and everything else that's happening within the company. So, or other things, like if you can close, half of the leads that come in, or every third lead that comes in, that's 33% success rate. If you, for a couple years, have to hire a salesperson, or at least, for half a year, and then hope that they're going to close half of those jobs, now you're paying a salary, and for the first year, that employee is going to bring lower results, and it's still going to take you a lot of time to train them, and they're still going to lose some of the great leads that you work with. Again, that's just a hypothetical example. Salespeople are great, especially if you find someone, just keep them around because they're really hard to find. But in a nutshell, those are kind of the two strategies. First, be frugal, be very frugal, try to save money off of everything. Second, only hire out of necessity and when you have ROI needs. Third, evaluate and gauge hourly rates and what makes sense from a financial standpoint. And fourth, try to analyze the things that you really have to do yourself and basically outsource the rest because you simply cannot afford to quit on certain types of activities.